Hello, hello.
Hi
Hello,
guys.
guys. Can you hear us? So, first of all, let's see some confirmations before we put Andrea on. Let's see. Can you guys hear us well? Let us know if you can hear us.
As usual, test.
Loud and clear. Okay.
Okay,
Awesome.
Sophia, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Sophie. So, this is going to be our last live event in this series. And before we start with our guest, I just wanted to remind you guys about the workshop, the one that we did for the last 10 days. So on our school group, just so you know, this is the place where you still have a chance to take a look at a workshop if you haven't seen it already. In the classroom area, we have all of the lessons for Rhino, Grasshopper, Rhino Side Revit, and also our courses if you want to continue learning with us. You also have on this page, when you click on the how to Rhino courses, this is where you can find all information about how you can start working with us if you want to continue learning from from what you've seen in the workshop, and then continue learning with our courses and our personal support. On this website, when you click here, you're going to see the whole presentation of everything that we offer, everything what our courses are made out of, what you can expect. Also at the bottom we have a big like live event that we had a couple of days ago, where we had like a live presentation of everything we actually, maybe some of you were there on the presentation, so you know what we went through, the whole process of how we teach and what are the lessons and so on. And yeah, this is what I wanted to point out before we start. And now I'm going to bring our guest on. I'm going to bring Andrea. So let's see. Hello, Andrea.
Hi, how are you?
Hi.
Good, awesome. So
Hello.
you can hear us well, right?
Very well.
Awesome. So
Yeah, thanks for having me.
this is the thing that we always need to check the sound, because you never know. With now we're actually going live on YouTube and also all of the other channels. Also wanted to let you know, guys, if you're watching this somewhere else, the best experience would be to go to YouTube, and this is where you'll find like all of the links that we're gonna post in the chat. Today we're joined by Andrea Keller, and I'm gonna read a little bit about Andrea. So Andrea is the founder of AK Architecture and Design. She's licensed architect with 25 years of experience in multifamily, residential, and boutique hotel design. Her work aims to align people with their core values, communities, and the earth. She was also professor of architecture of both UCS School of Architecture and Audits College of Art and Design. A key aspect of Andrea's work is her lifelong study of sacred geometry, symbols, patterns, and she uses unique geometry and proportion systems for each product to bring power and resonance to the design. Andrea believes that our environment can literally change our genes, and her mission is to use architecture for healing, activation, and amplification of personal power. She's currently designing healing centers worldwide, and her 4D design podcast explores how architecture and design can influence our perceptions, behaviors, and health. We're thrilled to have you here, Andrea, and we can't wait to hear your story. Welcome.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm so
Awesome.
excited. And it involves you. The story involves you. So
Yeah. So let's hear about that. Let's see. Tell us a little bit. A little bit about yourself and how everything started for you.
the funniest thing, and it's funny, is I was putting together some images. I brought some images to maybe show afterwards. But everything in our life, like the pieces tie together beautifully, and sometimes we don't see it until later. But I went to school when they didn't have computers at all, which might seem, hard to believe, but I literally used pencils even for graduate school, and they had computers, but it was early and I just didn't like the interface. And I was like, no, this isn't where we're going.
I remember seeing those drawings in some of our professors' cabinets. Like they were like these huge drawings on big walls, like, and they're like so detailed, right? So I assume that's what you were doing back in the days.
Yeah, huge drawings, but you actually learn a lot too, because you can't put too much detail in one area because you have to do the whole thing. So it teaches you a lot about workflow, pacing yourself. I'm grateful for the education that I had, and I'm also grateful that I saw the pre-digital world and now I'm part of the digital world. But I'm very much always wanted to make that jump. I wanted to make that transition, but I wanted the software to excite me. And it wasn't very exciting when I
Yeah,
first saw
yeah.
it. It was like, I can do straight lines, it'll take me 4 hours. So I had no background in this at all. And my first run-in with Rhino was actually, I was teaching studio and the students started using Rhino and I saw them using it, but I had such a practical, back up really quick. I have one parent who's Swiss. I've worked in Switzerland, so very practical, construction
Accurate.
detailing. Yeah, exactly. It's like everything's precise and like the details are perfect. I've lived in Europe quite a bit. I've worked in the Middle East. I've worked in Africa. So kind of an international perspective, but very heavy on construction and the reality of buildings. Like, so, Swiss people are practical, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
also it's just like, is
That's
like
why
an,
everybody wants to live there.
well, it works for some things, but, leaves some other,
Yeah, yeah.
things to be desired. But it's funny, when I saw people using Rhino, I was actually scared of it because I felt like it was putting too much power into the hands of people who didn't even know how to pick a piece of lumber out of a lumber yard. And there was no connection between these fantastic images that they were making and gravity,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
building codes. And it scared me. And I actually pulled some people back from using it so much because they were making things that could not ever exist in the
So more
world.
too conceptual, right?
Yeah, just conceptual, but also, and then we get into the problem of education. Like, what is the education supposed to be teaching you? And a lot of these studios were designing very specific and feasible projects,
Yeah,
like an apartment building, let's say.
yeah, yeah.
So in a way, if you got too conceptual, I mean, there's schools that do that, like SciArc does that. There's more conceptual
Yeah, well,
school.
our school was kind of a mixture of both because in our school in Belgrade here, you could actually choose in which master's area you want to go. So if you want to go into design, like there are professors who are more conceptual and there are professors who are more, for construction, accurate construction. So they actually allow you to pick and choose which studio you want to go to based on your preferences. But at the same time, you have some really important subjects that you need to know before you go there to the master's degree, right? So obviously, you need to have construction and geometry. What was the one we had in the first year? Yeah, I think it's. I'm not sure what's it called in English. It's just like everything about geometry. Like you have to draw all of this technical
I know
parts.
what you mean, but I also don't know the name in
And yeah,
English.
we had a very good professor,
Let me
and
check.
he was very old, but he was explaining like that subject so clearly, and he was drawing everything on the blackboard with the chalk, and his lines were perfect, his circles were perfect, and we were all amazed, like how can he do that? And then that's how we started to
Descriptive.
not geometry.
No, but that's not the thing.
It says here descriptive geometry, but I'm not sure if that's yeah, probably that's the subject.
Yeah.
Descriptive geometry, where you actually calculate, the geometry type of every single element, and you need to calculate like the angles and everything. And that was for us at first year very, very heavy. And then we had to go to some, additional classes to go through this. So yeah, I can hear what you're saying about, having both conceptual and also the real really heavy subjects as well.
Well, and it's hard because the school is so short, right? And there's too much to learn in school. You can't learn everything that you actually need.
Yeah.
And a common complaint that I hear about architecture, and definitely for me too, is I learned everything after. I mean, you learn how to think, which is very important. And for me, one of the most important things was rigor. That I can apply a system and stick to it, and I don't get emotional about it.
Yeah.
And then another part that gets very criticized, and I don't know if it's the same, but in the United States, when they review you, it's not a very nice process. They have, it comes from the French, jury, where they have 8 architects shredding you to pieces in front of everybody.
Yeah.
And people complain about that, but I would actually
We know
say
about
that it's actually very realistic. And
Mm.
in a way, I mean, while however brutal that is, I'm not afraid of any city council, any planning commission. And I just go in there and it's not emotional and I do my job.
Sure.
So I've been very effective at like lobbying governments and stuff
Yeah.
because I'm not afraid, because I was beaten down in school.
Yeah, well, that kind of helps you to form your personality afterwards, and you kind of know what to expect, right? And you just, as you said, you know your thing, and you just present it the best way you can, and then it's up to them.
So I found myself very torn because it's the school can't teach even Rhino properly. There isn't enough space in the curriculum.
Mm.
There isn't enough space to properly teach all of construction. I mean, I learn more about construction still every day. I learn about some new material, some way to detail. You never stop.
Yeah,
So that 5 years or 7 years can't contain all of the information. So I saw Rhino as a very dangerous,
yeah, area.
well, because it's like giving, a toddler like a jet fighter or something. And it's like, I was like, don't give them the jet fighter,
No need.
give them the pencil first. So I was actually very old fashioned. And I didn't come around right away, obviously. I mean, I started this journey just during the pandemic is when I found this course. But I ended up needing Grasshopper because I ended up starting a line of ceramic tile, and we started a tile company. And to model the tiles, we had to use Rhino. And there were people in my office who were some of my former students. So I didn't know how to do it, but they did. So I watched them. So now Rhino is in my office,
Awesome, nice.
getting closer, but I didn't know how to do it myself. And then it's like the pieces clicked. I mean, I studied all of that, the sacred geometry I studied in Florence and all the churches of the Renaissance. It was all about this geometry. And I had this idea that sacred geometry, if you did it with Grasshopper, that you could achieve something with much greater complexity than you could with chalk on a chalkboard.
Yeah, sure.
And we haven't changed the conversation about that geometry and what it means. And I think sacred geometry kind of gets a bad name. It sounds like you have a lot of crystals and you're wearing a purple robe or something. But I think it's in every church building. It's in every government building. And these are the basic building blocks. I mean, we're talking about spheres and ovals and, the golden ratio. And these are not fringe ideas. So I had this idea about, or cymatics, where they have the water reveals a geometry on a surface.
Yeah.
Because we're architects, I took a cymatics class, and this is a very pandemic thing to do, right? Is take lots of classes online.
Everybody did.
A million classes.
Yeah.
I was looking at cymatics, and I was looking at the similarity between the cymatics and the domes of churches or the ceilings of temples in India. And then as you're watching a video of cymatics, I saw that the shape would change over time. But I realized as an architect, we are looking at a 3D volume going through the surface of the water. Like the sine wave doesn't make a 2D shape. Of course it doesn't.
Yeah.
Like a sine wave emanating from a point source is making a 3-dimensional shape. So then I had to learn, so I wanted to, Grasshopper so I could recreate this, but I had to learn Rhino. And so I started at square one. So here I am, 20 years into my career, never touched the program, whole career.
When did you say was the first time you saw it? Was it with your students?
Yeah, I saw them using it. So this would have been like was it 2007? I don't know exactly when it came out. 2000, somewhere around then.
Okay.
And I would go over to their desks and I would see the 4 windows, and I was like, "You have no idea what you're doing." I was like, "No more,"
Yeah.
So I've been aware of it for a long time. And it's funny, sometimes if you have something that you criticize or you're afraid of, but it comes back to be very important for you.
Yeah. That's what happened, right?
Always. Or if I have someone, I have a bad first impression, we end up being good friends.
Yeah. This is also something we noticed. especially with we have colleagues who are older, and also people who have their own offices and who are like, let's say, old-fashioned architects, and they don't want to you know think about having new software in the office. They are just used to doing the things the old way. So for example, now in Serbia there are a lot of offices that are still using AutoCAD. Even though there's Revit, there's Rhino, there's other tools, they're still using AutoCAD because that's the tool they're used to. Even though they can be much more productive if they would use Revit or Rhino or something else, right? So they're just used to it, and they don't accept the change easily, right? And in your case, you saw the potential, and you kind of switched, right?
Well, I mean, I just saw it as like there's a divide,
Mm.
opening, and some people still are drawing with, a pen. I
Yeah.
mean, people ask me all the time, do you miss drawing? It's like, of course I don't miss drawing. Like I
Yeah.
still draw, but I draw in Revit,
Yeah.
I draw in Rhino. Um, I think you'd be crazy not to leverage our abilities. And it's so competitive now. I mean, I was working in the Los Angeles market, for 25 years, and it's so competitive. How can you not use every tool,
Mm-hmm.
from the generation of construction documents to the renderings? Like, you have to have every single tool in your arsenal.
Yeah.
So I realized early on, I mean, even when I wasn't doing Rhino, I was getting very good at CAD, and then I was an early adopter of Revit. And I said, we have to stay on top of technology, just not Rhino.
Cool.
Here we are.
So can you share with us, for example, what is your like general workflow in your office, like what you guys are, and also maybe you can tell us a little bit about your projects. What are you most interested in creating at the moment?
Well, what I'm most interested in now is kind of, I guess it would fall under wellness hospitality. My career has mostly been in hotel design, and
Mm-hmm.
we've done a lot of multifamily, but I think there's a lot of interest in going to a hotel, but a place that's healthy or peaceful,
Mm-hmm.
where people can, rest or have kind of a cultural detox. But it's not so much just, glamour and partying. There's lots of places for that already.
Yeah.
Some people want to go to a beautiful place and have a lot of quiet, or they're working on a project or something. So basically combining hospitality. And then I've also been pivoting towards eco
Mm-hmm.
friendly design. So rammed earth, non-toxic construction. I'm sure the buildings, the houses in the United States are built terribly.
Mm-hmm.
And we're having a lot of mold illness, and people are really getting sick from all the toxic building products. So I'm kind of going eco, more healthy, and more healing center, retreat center, schools, and actually designing a hospital. So
I remember, like, I forgot when it was exactly, but when you were asking us about one of your projects you were working on, it was some kind of, I think it was some kind of sacred also sanctuary, or maybe you can
Yeah,
remember.
yeah, yeah. I forgot the what was the functionality of the project, but I remember it was like some fluid, some shapes, some oval shape. I think involved
Yeah, and
grasshopper
we
in
did
that.
some mathematics on
Yeah, yeah. I
it.
remember it was
when I
what.
begged for help.
Yeah,
Yeah, so the idea is to bring it in, but then again, being practical, some of this, it might be first easy to bring it in as a ceiling, as architectural ornament, or
Mm,
to create these forms and slice them and use them as room dividers, or use them as the design for textile, or the design for a ceramic tile.
yeah.
So I think there's ways to bring parametric design into conventional construction, and wanting to be an adopter of this, but sometimes it's not possible to build a fully parametric project, especially if you're working with developers. But you
yeah.
can always bring something in.
Some pieces,
So
yeah. Yeah.
bringing it into everything that I do now
Mm-hmm.
is, one project I was working on is this hospital. It's a healing center near the Mexico border, but it's also a wellness retreat, because in a way, the things that cure you from disease are the same things that prevent you from getting the disease, you know,
Yeah.
like good food and, all this stuff. So some of the buildings there will start to use this parametric design, and, in the ceilings, but it's somewhere between, an Indian temple and a Catholic cathedral. And,
Cool.
everything I've ever learned in my life is collapsing into these buildings.
Yeah.
Awesome. Do you have, Andrea, something to share with us?
Yes,
Uh,
I brought some
uh,
photos of.
we can also, we can show some of your work as well. But I also wanted to ask you. You mentioned those star tiles. You mentioned that you were using Grasshopper to create the shapes. Can you tell us a little bit more about the process of design to production? Like what was your process to kind of design this in Rhino and Grasshopper and then produce it in real life,
So do you use Rhino or Grasshopper?
or
Both,
both?
actually.
Both, yeah.
Both. Okay, okay, okay.
So using Grasshopper to design ceramic tiles is new, but we've been using Rhino for a while just to test the shapes. And then we create blocks, and then all of our tiles are asymmetrical. So every design can make an infinity of patterns. If you combine an
Uh-huh.
asymmetrical tile with a blank tile, and this came out of me shopping, doing custom work for people and buying very expensive tile for the clients, and just thinking the tile was so boring. With all the things that we have and thousands of years of civilization, and design used to be better,
Yeah,
frankly,
yeah, yeah. True.
and a lot more visually interesting and rich. And so then those shapes would get, we'd slice and 3D print the positives, then
Mm-hmm.
we cast it in plaster. And I have no background in ceramics at all. Didn't know how to do anything. This is just YouTube videos.
Mm-hmm.
And figured out how to make a mold. We started producing them, started putting some pictures on Instagram. People started buying it. And
Cool.
now it's a full company. We have a studio and a factory here in Joshua Tree. So if anyone's in the area, please come by. But it's
Yeah, maybe we can show some of the tiles. What was the website? Star Tiles, right?
star-tile.com.
Oh, there you go. I think, yeah, I checked out the website before. Let
Oh,
me let me open it up. Maybe we can see it together.
And if you click on tile on the top bar, it'll show
As this
you.
one, right?
Yep. If you click on tile on the top menu, it'll give you the most images.
Okay.
oh, cool.
So
So these are,
everything's
these are the designs, right?
yes, everything's dimensional. Everything's using kind of, it's either botanical form taken directly from nature or
Mm-hmm.
fractal geometry. So it's either based literally on nature or an abstraction of natural
And
forms.
some of them are not rectangular, I see.
Yes, we have a whole series of pentagons.
Nice.
And then we get into like recreational math stuff. So,
Yeah.
there's only 15 ways to tile a flat surface using pentagons.
There you
Um,
go. There you go. So that's a real application of mathematics here. Because now when I'm looking at this, you know, I don't remember ever saw tiles like this in this shapes before. Um,
yeah, people don't really make them. It's
yeah,
not really.
but probably it's,
Uh,
it's because it's harder to assemble, I guess, and like it needs to be super accurate.
but what I can say though is I think without an exception, every single time I've been on a job site for an install, the tile installer loves them
Mm-hmm.
and loves the pattern. And, they have to engage, they have to use the mind. They start to play
Yeah,
with,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
what way is it turning? So you can see there on the right, that's a perfect example. And I'll be showing the Rhino file, but you can't make this in,
And
SketchUp or
yeah, yeah. And
Revit.
is there like a rule how it needs to be assembled, or it's all the combinations are accurate when you rotate it?
So we basically give a pattern guide, but also just given the architectural background, we do full CAD layouts. We do
Mm-hmm.
LiDAR scans, and then there are no trim pieces. We custom make everything, so everything's a custom installation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's like ordering a custom suit.
And how about the coloring? Are you also have like a special way to color them, or what was the process there?
These are all mineral oxides, so it's mid-fire, so it's harder than terracotta or
Mhm.
earthenware, which is more breakable. And then at the high end of the firing range is porcelain, which is more brittle. So this is in the middle. So this is literally the same clay you use for, ovenware,
Oh, nice.
or plates. So
But it looks amazing.
Yeah.
I haven't checked your website before. It's really cool.
And
oh,
what's this one? The glitter one?
so that's actually a glaze that we have that's fully metallic, and these tiles will also they'll last for 4,000 years. Um,
Whoa.
It's, inorganic material. I mean, everything will be gone and the tiles will still be there. They're thick enough. You can actually take them with you when you move. You can actually pull them out if you're remodeling. So the idea is to go back to an idea of everything's made custom, for the client. So they pick the pattern, they pick the color, they pick the glaze,
I see.
both. Is it dipped? Is it brushed? So, and this goes back to studying in Florence. It's just like the Florentine guilds was our inspiration.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Amazing.
So people hunched over tables, painting tiles one by one. So it's kind of, slow luxury, I guess, is the kind of market category. But I think a return to slow. And it's funny because we're using digital design to make something very non-digital.
Yeah. And then I assume that like whenever there's a custom build, it takes some time for you to produce them first and then, right? Because if everything is super custom, right?
Yeah, it takes 6 to 8 weeks, which is pretty normal. And then we started getting into Grasshopper. So the only other thing we do is we do completely custom mosaics. So an entire wall. And this could have images of, water and the sky, and we're cutting every tile by hand. We started using, was it Parakeet to do the layouts? And basically there's this thing called a parquet deformation, where a pattern changes, one line changes each time that so the tile turns from a square into a hexagon into another shape.
Amazing.
So we're using Grasshopper to do the tile shape transformation over the surface. And then we take that back into our template.
Amazing. Yeah,
So,
like we actually I've seen the tiles before that you produced, but I didn't check out this page exactly. It's really amazing. Congrats on doing this. So
thank you.
I know now why you're having a business on tiles only, because it's definitely very unique.
Thank you.
And we also have a lot of positive comments here in the chat about this. Cool. Yeah, awesome. So Andrea, where do you want to go next? Do you want to show us your work that you have prepared?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I can kind of show like how it all comes together. And it was funny because I felt like the geometry part I loved, but I didn't know how that fit into normal practice. When I started my practice in Los Angeles, I just wanted to be a normal architect.
Yeah.
I wanted to achieve certain things. I wanted to work for certain hotel brands. I wanted to check these boxes. But then we always go back to those passions we have earlier in life. It's like we have to follow those little breadcrumbs. Like when we were a child, like I loved geometry even as a kid,
Yeah.
And here we are. So yeah, I can share it's a quick. Well, it's funny, but I'm grateful to you because, so I didn't know Rhino at all, and I had no way of learning it, because I'm not in school, and I'm a working professional, and I have two companies, but it was the pandemic, and then I said, I just need information that's so specific for what I need it for, because I was doing, there's jewelry design tutorials or people designing the insides of airplanes,
Yeah.
and it wasn't applicable to me.
Yeah, this is there we go. Now we should be able to see your screen.
Can you see?
Yeah, now we can see it.
Wow.
So this is kind of where we're going. So this is kind of where I'm ending up using like creating architectural ornaments, which also can be put into tile. So we'll be doing Grasshopper based form, then put into the ceramic tile as well. But basically, so this would be like for a ceiling. This was a firm in LA. We did a lot of kind of normal projects, lots of hotels. We've done theaters, probably 200 houses. A lot of kind of, normal work. And I think it was, learning a lot, but I think, it wasn't my heart in it yet, but kind of finding my way. But this is like the Mondrian Hotel in West Hollywood. So we got to work at some like amazing places. We did a lot of multifamily buildings. So something like this, Revit, and this is easy to do in Revit. But this is kind of the type of work that we were doing, is kind of custom condo buildings. This is the project that the tiles made me angry. If you can look at the tiles on the right, And I went to like the highest end tile store in all of Los Angeles. And at the end of the day, I was like, you are kidding me.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you can't do any better than that at the top of the market. Like, where is the passion? Where is the creativity? It's just, not
When was
enough.
when did you start with the tiles? Which year?
This is like 2016. So
2016.
yeah, about 8 years ago. No. And I just, and sometimes you get angry and then you just start making stuff. So this is that tile that we were looking at, and it was just drawing it, pulling it, playing with these layers.
Mm-hmm.
We had to experiment a lot to find out, how thick it needed to be so it wouldn't break, but it wasn't
Mm-hmm.
too heavy. And how big should the tile be? And I mean, we didn't have a 3D printer. We didn't have anything.
I assume it took a lot of testing before you got it right.
Oh, thousands of tiles,
So
later.
this is the mold, right?
Yeah. So these are the positives on the left.
Uh-huh.
So that's another Pentagon series.
Uh-huh.
So again, we had no idea what we're doing. Pouring this, there's air hose in it. We use a type of plaster that has fissures in it so the air can shoot through.
Mm-hmm.
So we pour the plaster with the air hose, and then we sweat the mold, and that 3D printed piece pops out, and then we put the clay in that mold.
I see.
And then connect it to a compressor. And doing that, it's, we can make a couple hundred tiles a day with each mold.
And how many
And
people are working on this in the production?
So there's only 4 of us right
Mhm.
now. So hopefully, we'll grow and expand and
Yeah.
take on more.
But
We have
that
big plans.
is amazing.
Yeah,
This is
this
kind of
is
the idea to the finished reality.
incredible.
So Rhino makes real things.
Um, I'm curious about like your
Oh,
kind of design process in terms of like testing out those shapes, like the ones that you showed in the Rhino window when you were kind of showing that one. You were showing the process and how everything evolved. Like what is that process for you? Like, do you sleep on it a little bit and then do you kind of play with it the day after?
Oh,
And
so much.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's probably at least 10, if not 15 versions of each one.
Mm-hmm.
There's certain attributes that tend to make for better tiles, like a pronounced asymmetry, kind of weight on one side of the tile versus the other, like leave open space.
Mm-hmm.
How much movement is too much movement? So much testing. And there's some tiles we put into production and then stopped making. They didn't really resonate anymore. So it's really a continual process. But I
Yeah.
think for this, this was we had this whole series based on Japanese textiles, and it's just fun to be able to, look at things in the world and be inspired and play. And tiles
yes.
take a lot less time than buildings.
So you have inspiration from Italy, from Japan. That's really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. These are the amazing. They have a lot of history, a lot of architecture behind. So it's great that you connected so many like different cultures at the same time, and then the inspiration you had from the childhood. So now it's becoming super real and super cool.
Well, I think I have a great sorrow actually about modernism, and I feel that when they got rid of ornament, that it was a big mistake,
Mm-hmm.
and that they threw away a lot of culture, which is very beautiful and very powerful. And I kind of have a cynical view of you have, these Germans and Austrians or whatever. You're like,
Yeah.
yeah, we're just going to make white boxes, and it's kind of throwing away thousands of years of Chinese culture and Indian culture,
Yeah. Yeah.
African, Mesoamerican. And so I think ornament is important, not only for visual delight, but even, there's a rise of mental illness in
Mm-hmm.
modern society. And I
Yeah.
think part of it has to do with living in these very unnatural white boxes. I think that we need pattern and texture. I think that's why biophilia is coming back. We need to see natural forms, and I view Grasshopper as natural forms,
Mm-hmm.
parametric design. So I actually think this is part of, the bigger mission here is one of taking people away from modernism back to it being okay to ornament buildings, So
Yeah, this is also like we've seen a lot of I from time to time I follow these architectural pages, on Instagram and also TikTok, and there are people there saying as well similar things that you just said about architecture slowly becoming faceless and without so much, joy in it, without details, without textures, without um, passion in it. And uh, when you just take a look at these, amazing buildings from, 12th, 13th century in Italy, for example, or Renaissance period, and then you see what they did then. For example, I don't know if you've been to Barcelona, to Gaudi's
Yeah.
church that Sagrada Familia was. When I went inside, I felt like this guy's from another world. Like it's a different world that where his mind was somewhere else, and he brought that mind to us to be able to see what he saw in his mind. And like that's the first time where I felt okay. Something is missing here. Like why we don't see these kind of creations anymore. There's and a lot of times, like whenever people ask me what was like the most beautiful building you saw, that's the one, because I really felt something. I felt this, like when I heard the story about how Sagrada was built and what was the process and what was Gaudi's intentions with it, and how he wanted to represent trees inside of the church. And like you see this, and you see the light, and you see the mixture of light and also the glass and everything else, and simply
Yeah.
creates this very unique atmosphere that you can't see often today.
Yeah, yes, and when you're inside, you feel like the building is alive.
Yeah, yeah,
That
Well, I
atmosphere.
think, yeah,
Yeah.
it should make you cry, right?
yeah.
I mean, I think buildings should make you just like happy and make you cry and make you excited about the world, you know? Like, what are we doing?
So yeah, like have you been in Sagrada?
I have not been.
Oh, then
I
you
have
should, you
seen,
should
yeah,
definitely.
I actually had a plane ticket to go there and I ended up being sick.
Mhm.
So I got only to the Barcelona airport, but yeah,
Oh,
soon. But
too bad.
Gaudi's
Too
a huge hero of mine. I love the eccentric architects who didn't follow the trends, you know.
bad.
And
Yeah,
this is a thing for me too, like be a rebel.
yeah,
Like who cares about fashion? Just be a rebel and do your thing and listen to that voice in you that's telling you
yeah. Well, that's
where
what
you're
you need.
going.
Every single one of us, like that voice.
Yeah, and not to just, make another box. So, no more boxes. Um, Wanted to quickly show some of this. So this is kind
Hmm.
of where I started. So I
Oh,
took the
that's what
cymatics.
you were referring to before. Yeah.
Yeah. So these are cymatics, but to me, this looks like I'm looking up into a cathedral
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
or I'm looking down at a stupa, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And there's no difference in my mind and there's no accident. And what I loved about this, well, this is another thing, this is probably controversial to say, but I love that this is made by nature and this is more beautiful than what we can do. And I want to remove ego from architecture.
Mm-hmm.
And so I became obsessed with this idea of what if music could design the building itself? And that was the starting point. So I looked at this and then I said, you know what, I need to learn Grasshopper.
Yeah.
This is just a quick thing. So this is me in Italy.
Oh, there you
Sorry.
go.
I know. I was like one of those kids like running around with a sketchbook,
Yeah.
putting it up. But here I am doing archaeology with my brown hair and dirty.
Oh, so these are your sketches?
Yeah, these are my sketches. But I loved it. I ate up. Well, also, if you come from Los Angeles, we don't have any old buildings.
Mm,
None. Like it's I grew up on a patch of dirt and there were coyotes, and
yeah.
literally tumbleweeds. And then
Yeah.
you land in Italy, I lost my mind. I couldn't believe that this was real.
So this was when you were studying in Florence?
Yeah, I was in Florence, then I went back to Rome and I worked for my first job after college was working as an illustrator for the American Academy.
Oh, cool.
So everything that they would find on the archaeological digs, I would measure with calipers and draw.
Cool.
And I got to sit in this villa and just draw things all day.
Awesome. So you speak
So,
Italian very well, right?
certo, yes. Speak Italian, I speak French, I speak Spanish.
Awesome.
I love, I love, I mean, I love travel. I love culture.
Yeah,
I
we have
love,
a, we have a comment from Sarah. She's saying Lisbon is full of facades as well, and I can attest to that. I was there many times in Lisbon. They also have very rich tile culture, and um, I don't know if you had a chance to go there.
I haven't been, and that's at the top of my list. I have been to Brazil, which has a lot of Portuguese tile. And it's incredible. There's buildings from the 1500s that are perfect. Like they
Yeah.
look like they were built yesterday because the tile doesn't, degenerate. And these buildings, yeah. So I need to get to Portugal, but
Portugal and Barcelona.
and Barcelona, yeah. Well, yeah, that's fine. So yeah, so this was the inspiration. I said, well, what is the common thread? Like I keep coming back to these buildings. I keep coming back to geometry. I keep coming back, looking at these things. It's all the same. And how
Mm-hmm.
do I make them? And this is when I contacted you.
Yeah.
So I wanted to take a sine wave emanating from a point source and then basically create a kind of a sacred geometric container for it, but also through a series of tractors, cause it to replicate the cymatic, basically. And so had a lot of fun.
You were testing the sine function in different ways.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And so all of these forms were made with a single sine wave.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing that I'm changing is the amplitude and
Mm-hmm.
the angle of incidence of that sine wave, and changing like the strength of the attractors and stuff like that. But what's incredible to me is this looks very natural.
Yeah.
And then you think, well, maybe, I mean, the universe is geometric. And to me, Grasshopper is a little bit of a window into how nature might make forms like
Mm-hmm.
flowers and fruits and things. But it's all coming from a single sine wave. And then I was playing with the idea of like, what if we had these sine waves in one of those churches,
Yeah.
What would that look like? And I'm interested in doing this. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I was saying what would happen at that point.
Well, I was interested. The reason why I was interested in doing this potentially is like an AR application,
Mm-hmm.
is because I think this is just allowing people to see the geometry that, we as architects can intuitively feel space, but other people don't have those sensations because they haven't been trained to. It's like a
Mm-hmm.
sense they've lost.
Yeah.
And people don't feel space at all, but I'm like, but maybe if they could see the beauty of the space with their eyes of the music, if that makes sense.
And at the same time listen to the music, possibly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So like, what if there were immersive experiences that would allow people to have a greater understanding or appreciation of the geometry of architecture?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We have one question. Have you worked with physicists and mathematicians and engineers with regards to discovering geometries?
Yes, I worked a bit with a physicist who was the teacher of the cymatics class. So that's ongoing, but I love physics and I'm very interested in that collaboration. But I think this is also kind of an open invitation if there's anyone who's interested in these topics and basically wants to, play or test ideas.
Yeah.
I'm very interested. They're doing a lot of research on the healing properties of sound. But what if you were in a building that was actually made of sound? Like, what would that do to you physically?
We're gonna wait for your building to get built, and then we're gonna test it
So
out.
we're gonna test this out. But we are working on doing some at small scales. I know we need like data too. Like what happens? Like, does your brain go into theta state, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
These are the things that are knowable and we can find out. And right now we're testing things in AR, but soon, as we start building them and getting some data. But you can see my Grasshopper's gotten a little bit better. It's still not, all the way. I watch videos every single week. Learning is a process that doesn't end, you know.
Yeah.
But you can see this is like, you know, finding these forms and then exploring them. I almost feel like I'm in a garden selecting flowers and cutting pieces and assembling them again.
We have a comment here. It looks like studying the sound waves in space.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So that was the question. Like, what if man isn't the one designing the building? What if music is the one designing it? So that's my question. So this isn't it.
I just wanted to come back a little bit on the topic of music. So when you were testing those, I forgot what was the word. Those prints of the sound. So which music and sound do you use? Do you use some specific music with some specific frequency, or any type of music?
Well, it can basically be any tone, but then it has to be harmonics of that
Mm-hmm.
tone.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a geometric relationship between the tone and its harmonics.
Yeah.
So there's like the octave above, then the fifth above, and then the octave again, and then the fourth, and the whole harmonic series. So it has more and more complexity depending on the number of harmonics.
Oh, I see. Okay. Okay.
But basically what you're actually looking at, it isn't really music per se, it's actually a single note with its harmonics.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you can imagine like music itself with all of its complexity, but I mean, architecture, when we experience architecture, we also experience it over time. And it's a sequence of proportional relationships, as is music. Like they're basically the same thing, but music has time and architecture doesn't.
Yeah.
So the idea is like, what if you can stop the time of music and freeze it? And then you have architecture.
They have the print of that point in time.
Yeah, exactly. You're just doing a 3D print of that moment. This is like what I do for fun at night. So this is the design of it, a little temple here for Joshua Tree.
That's one of the moments that you stopped, right?
Yeah, so this is just a moment that stopped. I mean,
Mm.
all of these are just a moment. That's a moment. That's a seventh harmonic on the top of a G. And it's just
Mhm.
like, that's all it is. I mean, music is beautiful and everything it makes is beautiful. Like on the bottom, these pieces, those flower-like pieces, that's actually just coming from the grasshopper. I didn't draw anything. I mean, I put in the little blue circles,
Yeah.
you know?
So you basically combined music and mathematics in your
Together, yeah.
Yes,
together in
exactly.
architecture. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
really interesting approach.
And then, you know, this is kind of the pivot towards eco. So we're doing a lot of rammed earth. And I've
Mhm.
partnered with a rammed earth company. So lots of these projects happening. And this is a retreat center here at the bottom right. Because rammed earth is fireproof and bulletproof and climate resilient and all of that. But I think what we're looking at is like on the bottom right, that's actually the room where people will get chemotherapy at this hospital. But what I have to do now is take those grasshopper forms. What if the whole ceiling was that, you know?
Yeah.
Like when you're receiving chemotherapy, that you're laying there looking at parametric, this beautiful ceiling, this organic, looking at music essentially. So that's where this is all going. This is another form, but again, it's like I didn't draw anything.
Yeah. You just kind of gave it life, a moment in time.
I'm just
On that.
finding, it's like finding things in nature, you know? So
Yeah. And uh, thank you, Andrea, for showing us this. It's really inspirational. And um, I really haven't thought about this topic before until I saw this. Like everything that you laid out here. And one of the things that I wanted to point out here is that it's all about having, like you mentioned yourself, have that kind of drive into this direction because you feel like this is your, like like a call, and you felt this, that you need to push this and kind of get it out there. And we don't see this very often in architecture. Usually it's always It's always about money, about profit, about how do we make more square meters, and and get more money. And we don't see this often in terms of creating something that's really pure and really that comes from inside and and it's really selfless at the end. um, uh, Now let's see if you have any
Yeah, we
questions.
have two questions that I see here. The first one: do you believe that virtual reality can be helpful to visualize these form waves in an actual space?
Absolutely. So I'm obsessed with the idea of VR, and I think it's a perfect way to test it and how more appropriate for something coming out of the future, like this is technology of the future, to experience it virtually, because
Yeah.
people have to see to believe. And before people, I mean, I believe there will be a time when parametric design is so powerful that we don't have a choice. Like we have to have it in our built environment. We we can't afford to build horrible buildings anymore
Yeah,
because we're going crazy, you know,
Yeah.
and the quality of life is too low if we don't have good design. But I think absolutely VR. I'm playing with actually to create some of these temples. I was thinking as meditation. Typically, people do meditation with eyes closed. But
hmm,
what if you could have open eyes and that the visuals were aligned, just like we have binaural beats
yeah,
and training our brain waves? Why can't we visually entrain ourselves? And I tell you, when I'm in the model, because you know how it is, like you're in the model, like I'm in it
Yeah.
for hours at a time. It's a very peaceful process. And when I'm floating around inside that resonance and I'm cutting it and playing it, it's so meditative for me. So I want to share that. I mean, because why don't people use their eyes for meditation? It's crazy. It's a sense we're not
yeah,
using. So
yeah,
I
yeah. Like
think there's
the thing is that once you close the eyes, you go easily into alpha state, and when you open the eyes, you're in beta always. So that helps us kind of relax when you start meditating. But uh, yeah, uh, we're gonna wait for your. You mentioned that you want to really study this and see how it affects the people who are healing, and also potentially having these experiences. And maybe before you build these products, maybe people can fill them with the VR or AR and kind of see how it looks. um, but it's definitely something that we're gonna follow to see what happens. We have another question. uh, was it this one,
Can you
Christina?
elaborate? Yeah.
Can you elaborate a little bit more on how you made those forms?
I guess she's referring to Grasshopper, I guess.
Or yeah, the,
Or
the forms of the last couple of projects you showed us.
yeah.
Yeah, so basically, yeah, you start with a sine wave, and then you have to take the points off it, and then you have, I don't know,
You have the
I'm not
wave.
going to have all the good words for this, but then it's basically you have to have sacred geometric
Mhm.
attractors essentially, and then you can control the relationship of those attractors. And it's playing also, some of them have multiple attractors, but the attractors are fractals of the other ones, so they're like the children of the previous
Yeah, yeah,
one to establish that fractal relationship. So then it's like moving the attractors on, obviously, and changing the proportion of like the ratio of those forms, the location on the z-axis, and then kind of it's just turning a bunch of dials, really,
Yeah.
just playing with the amplitude. And I am playing with, I mean, I want to create even more and more complexity with this. So one thing I've played with is actually generating the form and sending the form back through Grasshopper again. So
Hmm.
subbing out the geometry and sending it back through the algorithm. But I
Hmm.
can tell you, when that happens, weird stuff happens. Like,
Yeah.
but it's amazing. And I can show you some, but it's almost creepy. Like it almost looks like it starts to develop. Like I think there's one data set that I need to take a zero off of or something, but it has this asymmetry, but it almost looks like hearts in a lung is what I'm
yeah,
trying to
yeah.
say. Like
Yeah.
as you do it more and more again, it just gets more and more lifelike.
Hmm.
So that, that,
And
that that's because the mathematics is also engraved in the space in nature everywhere.
well,
Essentially,
exactly,
like,
this is what nature does. And nature's efficient, and nature isn't going to use like one rule and then a different rule, like on the same, you know what I mean? Like it
yeah,
just, it's typically like you can look at plants, like it grows X distance and then it'll split into 3 branches. The upper branch, absorbs these characteristics, the lower branches, it's like there's a system, and it's
yeah.
a geometric system. And what better way to explore a geometric system than Grasshopper?
There is one more question about um, like, what's your experience with working with rammed earth?
So I am crazy about rammed earth. I think it's the labor cost is still high, but I think the more people use it, the cost will come down.
Mm-hmm.
What I love is that these buildings can last for 1,000 years, like people used to build for 1,000 years, and not for 40 years, then we tear it down, which is what we do in America, and everything goes to a landfill. So I work with, there's a company I like that I work with the most, is called Firewall, and they actually have insulation in it. There is some rebar. It's 9% concrete, so it has a compressive strength of concrete. But there's so much you can do. And even playing with simple formwork, if you have one set of round forms and one set of straight forms, you can make so many.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like people think that a kit of parts is constraining, but I'm like, look at Minecraft, look at Lego. Like
Yeah.
basic constraints didn't stop anyone, So I actually like the simplicity, and I kind of dream of, if you had the equipment and you had some basic formwork, you could just travel from site to site with this formwork, and everyone could design their own house out of a kit of parts. So
Yeah.
I'm working on components to put, in 3D warehouse and BIM
Uh,
object.
Dorothy is asking, how do you make round windows in rammed earth? Do you have
So
experience with that?
yeah, so anything you cut out, you basically have to make a box, and it has to be really solid. They do sell oval windows, but typically you don't want to ram over something. But in that case, you just have a solid box. So
Mm-hmm.
it's possible to do. But yeah, I actually don't. I think most of your, electricity and stuff like that should not be in the wall.
Mm-hmm.
Also, if it's lasting for 1,000 years, maybe you have a different system. I know they have amazing ceiling systems, like Holdeck, that you can send things through the ceilings,
Cool. Cool.
or you have exposed conduit and things like that. So, but it's pretty magic. So it modulates humidity. So it'll keep humidity in that ideal 40 to 60% range. You almost need no climate control.
Mm-hmm.
Um, flood-proof, fireproof. Your insurance cost goes down. You don't have termites. I mean,
Yeah.
and I like the idea too. If the exterior envelope is rammed earth, you can build the interior walls out of anything, and then you can remodel over time. You can change your mind about the interior all you want, but just keep your exterior envelope, one thing.
Interesting. All right. So, Andrea, we want to thank you a lot for coming on. We had a great time, and I'm sure the audience enjoyed your story and your work, and your amazing explorations in terms of the sacred geometry, and also the patterns and mathematics, and water and sound and everything that, and mathematics at the end. Uh, we're really proud that we managed to help you to get better with Rhino, and to kind of be one step closer to achieving your dreams with these kind of ideas. And yeah,
Yeah.
would like to possibly invite you one more time if you're up to it. We can discuss some of these topics again in the future if you're up to.
No, I would love to, and I'm so grateful. I literally had never opened a program before I started on your lessons, like starting with like, what is a plane, what is a line? I mean, I didn't know anything. And so, yeah, your faces are very famous to me because I see you a lot. Um, but but yeah, it worked. It totally worked, and I wanted a result, and I got the result. So I'm super grateful.
Amazing, amazing.
Also, that you understand our needs. So
All right, so we're
Thank,
gonna wrap it up here. Thank you guys for joining us,
and thank you, Andrea, for
and
sharing with us the whole story
and your work.
and your work. Yeah.
And we're gonna continue, guys, in the, let's say, in the next 10 minutes. We're gonna continue with our next guest. And for now, we're gonna stop here. Thank you, Andrea, one more time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for
Bye
having me.
bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
And you're back. So I hope that you guys enjoyed the first part with our first guest, Andrea Keller. Now we're gonna go and continue with our second guest, and just let me bring on our second guest. Let's see if Aisha can hear us and see us. Let's see if we can hear you. Hello, Aisha, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Hello.
Awesome. Awesome.
Hello,
Hello,
hello.
hello.
Hi, everyone.
Hello. So we have the sound from you. We have the sound from us. Usually, it's always the sound check at the beginning, so that's what we need to do first. So if you guys can hear us all good, we're gonna start with Aisha. So Aisha is a computational design specialist at the renowned Bjarke Ingels Group at BIG. Her work spans in diverse range of projects, including facades, urban analysis, architecture, and landscape design. Her expertise in computational design allows them to explore complex geometries and optimize design processes, bringing a unique and cutting edge approach to every project. Their ability to seamlessly integrate technology with creative design solutions ensures that each project not only meets functional requirements but also achieves aesthetic excellence and sustainability. We're delighted to have Aisha with us today to share her insights into her own architectural path and career, the role of computational design in modern architecture, and to hear how running Grasshopper knowledge helped her to get where she is now. Welcome, Aisha. It's a pleasure to have you here. And
And thanks for the great presentation. So I'm happy to be here and to show my work and everything.
awesome, awesome. So yeah. First of all, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us a little bit about your story, and we're gonna probably have questions along the way. So we're gonna Lazar is gonna pick out the questions along the way, and then we can answer them either during the presentation or at the end.
Okay, sounds great. So hi everyone. So my name is Aisha. I'm working as a computational designer at Big in London. So, but my background was product design. So I have been working on architectural firm like such as Mamumani Architects and Sumin. So I've been exploring computational stuff like 3D printing and these technologies. So I have been doing everything except product design basically. So but this gave me also the opportunity to learn like more things, like more skills, and also to have um, to have different projects. For example, like working in installation before and working on pavilions, or now, for example, I'm working on architectural stuff, urban design, landscape. So, and it's been an exciting like journey. I mean, it will never finish to learn, but I hope like I won't change that much again.
Yeah, that's one recurring theme. Everybody's saying we never stop learning, and that's correct because you always learn something new.
Yeah.
Especially in architecture and design, there's always things to learn. There's always new software. There's always
We had a comment from Dorothy. She said lifelong learning is fundamental to
being
being
successful
successful
in
in
architecture.
architecture.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
Yeah, that's also like if you think you know everything, then be sure that you don't know
Yeah,
everything. That's the way, but it's beautiful at the same time. So because I mean, we are in that age where we have many like technologies, so AI and everything. So it's amazing like how we can think about how to explore them and how to combine these skills to have new things. Like I can share, yeah, the presentation. I have done a little bit of
sure.
presentation.
Let's take a look. I wanted to ask you before
Yeah.
that. I wanted to ask you, like you mentioned, you come from the product design background. So, did you go to school for product design first?
Yes. So was
No.
in Italy, the Academy of Arts.
Mm-hmm.
So I have done also architecture, but not architecture school only, like
I see.
more as a product design like thing.
Okay.
So
Okay, and then
working on Cinema 4D and stuff.
And
You know,
how did you decide to switch to architecture? Like, were you always interested in architecture, or?
I have been studying architecture in the school, but
Mm-hmm.
not as a full-time thing, like
Okay.
only like few hours.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Also
Mm-hmm.
in the university, but was not an strict architectural school.
I see.
So it was product design, and then when I moved in London, so I was looking like to find an internship as a product designer,
Mm-hmm.
and somehow I end up in the architectural firm. So it's like my path went,
Yeah.
and it was great because I couldn't expect like this. If it wasn't for this way, I wouldn't have done like many things and like learn a lot. So I'm grateful.
Awesome. Awesome. Let's see the work.
Yeah, sure. Let me share my screen.
Yeah.
Can you see?
Yep. Now I should be able to see it.
Okay.
Maybe flip. Yeah. Move the browser so we can see the presentation below.
Oh, I see. 1 second.
The big architects. Rename.
Can you see it now?
Yep.
Okay.
There we go.
I'm just gonna make the full screen.
There we go. Now we can see it.
Okay. I'm just gonna try to make the full screen mode so it's good to see it. Okay. So the first thing is that technology. You know, we have many like technologies. Like we have computational design, we have digital fabrication, AR, BIM, AI, and more. So I think what makes the difference is how we combine this technology together to have something new in everything we do. It can be product design, it can be architecture, landscape, or anything like fashion, but it's the way how we combine them, because like we can learn the software, we can be a great designer like using one software, but what makes the difference is how to use them together to have something new. And this is what I was interested in and what I'm looking for. Like, okay, so how can I use computational design and where I can use it? I can use it with digital fabrication, environment analysis, facade installation, landscape, and robotics, fashion, urban design, architecture, product design, and VR. And what I want to show you like are some projects I have worked on, some examples like how what I mean by combining these skills to have something. And the first one is the Steampunk Pavilion. So this is an example of computational and also 3D modeling, because for the 3D model, to 3D model this, initially we used Maya, Grasshopper, and also like digital fabrication and augmented reality, because we didn't use any drawings to do this pavilion, to create this. And this was the initial render, and this was all the process. So how we did like all the bending stuff, the steel bending, and also the bending of the wood that you can see here in the rhino gourd. And these are some photos. Like as you can see, like we couldn't have done this without a person that showed us or where where to bend the wood. So you can't actually you can't draw these and just do it. You need to wear something. You need to see the geometry and then see where is bended in Rhino, and then bend it again uh, with fabrication manually in order to have it. And so yeah, this is the process. But can you hear me, right?
Yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you. I was just saying, and can you go a couple of slides back?
Yeah.
Because we actually saw, like, Lazar and I,
Yeah.
we were. This project is really familiar for us because
Yeah.
we know Igor Pantic, and also
Yeah.
So she is from Korea, from
Yeah.
South Korea, right?
yeah,
Yes.
and they used to they came to our school, our architectural school, in 2000. What was it? 11 or something,
No, I think 13, 13.
or 13 or
I
something
think
like this.
13. Yeah, yeah.
And they showed us this project, and we actually had a time to.
No, they didn't show us. They we had a
The
workshop
workshop, yeah,
for
yeah.
the processing.
We
Yeah.
had a workshop on processing language,
Yeah.
and they were the teachers.
Yeah,
They were
yeah.
brought by one of our professors,
Yeah.
and it was amazing to see, like, what that coding language can do back then.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
also later on, when we talked, when you joined us, we talked about this project as well. I remember, because
Yeah.
you were involved in the team, so it's kind of interesting to see how everybody's connected.
Yeah.
So
It's
yeah,
a small world.
yeah. So let's talk a little bit about this. Um, if I remember correctly, like, so there is a model, Rhino model, that was done to create this pavilion, this structure, and then every single piece was custom built or custom made, right? And in order to have the actual angle, the correct angle of every single plate, you had to use the VR or AR glasses to be able to see in space how that's going to be bent. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes. So basically, was made. You can do the geometry in Rhino or also in other software like Maya or
Mhm.
Cinema 4D. Because in the 3D model, I think Sumin and Igor worked more in that. So
Mhm.
I have been helping to
The
with the
fabrication. Mhm.
fabricate. Yeah,
Mhm.
but I guess they used this to 3D model it first as a surface,
Mhm.
and then use Grasshopper or processing for the fields.
Mhm.
And then to see the curvature, we use the also the guys from Hologram, like Will
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
Sean. Like Hologram, it's something that you can download, a plugin you can download and insert it in Grasshopper. So basically, what it
Mhm.
does, it connects HoloLens with Grasshopper, so then you can see the curvature of the where it's bending, where it's
Yeah.
curved, and it's impossible to draw it. So that's why, but was also a nightmare, like honestly, like with HoloLens, but was much more better, like
Yeah.
to see
I've
where it is.
always
Yeah,
I've always wanted to test HoloLens. I never had a chance to test it out. I know they have two versions now. They had the version 1, version 2. I don't know which ones you use, but it's like
I think the
they're
old one it was
yeah.
in 2019.
So
Mm.
that technology is really amazing, and like, I also remember their presentation. Like, it's kind of half real life, half the model, and you can kind of see in like in real space what the model looks like, and then based on that you can build physical stuff on it.
Exactly, and it's amazing, like because then you can see what you 3D model
Mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm.
then see it and do it.
Do
So
it.
I think more than this, I think architecture is a little bit far because you can do pavilions in
Mm-hmm.
at this scale, but I mean that's
I've
the
seen,
beauty. Like
I've
you
seen
can,
one presentation from Greg Lynn, architect from the United States. He was also promoting HoloLens back in the days. He had one big, like, I think it was for a Venice Biennale Pavilion or something. He was creating some presentation where he showed how he used HoloLens in this huge hangar, and like you can see the whole pavilion inside of the hangar. And then like he showed how that technology at that time could actually influence the design process and how it can make the production also a little bit easier. um,
Yeah.
Cool. So let's go to the next slide. I'm also interested to see, like, I saw some interesting stuff there that you showed. So yeah, so this thing where you show that one part 268. So
Yeah,
that's what you see actually, like how you see the
exactly.
drawing on top of the
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are all the steel connection, because these wood, like these needs to be connected at somehow,
Mhm.
and also these steel has different angles. So
Mhm.
we had to use HoloLens to see where to bend the steel, and for each of them we had number. Like this was the 216, and we could also go to the next one by pressing the button on the top.
Cool.
So we could, yeah, this was the process, like how to do it.
So they actually build the whole thing, probably with some either processing or Grasshopper into the HoloLens, so the HoloLens can read all of this, right?
Yes, but was in Grasshopper, like
Grasshopper.
Grasshopper, hologram,
Hologram.
and yeah,
Okay,
maybe
okay.
processing was used even before for the initial geometry, like this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
of course, like the real, when we fabricated, like it was a little bit different, because also the process, we want also to give some, the process can also build something. We
Mm-hmm.
trust the process, basically.
Sure.
It's not like we want this exactly, but we want something like this, but also with the fabrication.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we ended like here.
So are you saying that the final piece is a little bit different than the original, or no?
Yeah, it's always different, because as you can see here in the render,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and see now the
Yeah,
final one.
yeah.
But we need to trust the process, so we need to embrace it.
Sure,
Yeah,
sure,
so
sure. And tell me about the process itself, like when you're bending this pieces and everything. Like, let's say you make a mistake. Do you throw away the piece and then
yeah.
do? Yeah.
Yeah, because you can't use it, because what we did is that, okay, we in 30 minutes we had to leave this wood, ash
Uh-huh.
wood, like inside these to steam, no,
Mm-hmm,
with
mm-hmm,
30 minutes. So then there is one guy like wearing HoloLens, and other 10 people around, like that are helping to bend,
I
because we
see.
need to bend. I think it was like in not more than 5 minutes or 10 minutes.
For the whole piece to
No,
be.
for one piece,
Mm-hmm,
to in order to bend it,
mm-hmm.
so we can leave it to dry, so it has the curvature.
Yeah, I see.
So
So it's
that's
the time pressure as well as the accuracy pressure, right?
yeah. And it has to be like precise. If something doesn't work, or it's like we fail to follow the instructions, so it's we had to redo it. And
Yeah. Because probably that piece is gonna be connected to another piece which is also custom. So
exactly,
if you mess up the first one, the second one is not gonna work, and then the
exactly,
whole shape is gonna be different at the end. But
yeah.
that's why you said you trust the process and you.
And it's
And
not only this. So after this, we had to take this on site and
Mhm.
test it in the real model like this, because we did it in parts, like
Mhm.
4 parts. So if it wasn't matching, so we had to redo like some of the steel brackets, or we had to
Mhm.
redo a thing. But yeah, it's how it works. Like,
So
yeah,
you build it in the workshop and then you bring it on site,
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
and how long did it take to build?
the whole thing. Yeah,
Yeah, the whole pavilion.
So it took, in total, it took 3 months.
3 months,
Yeah,
Wow.
so
and then 10 people working on the project.
we had students, but we had also people that were full time there was
Mhm.
me, another guy, Karim, and of course me, Igor, Gwil, and Hologram guys. But
Mhm.
we divided the team. I was coordinating this team. So Sumin was with me, and another guy was like coordinating the hologram
Yeah.
things on the site. So we were in the workshop with Igor and Sumin. So 3 in the workshop and other 3 in the site, and so we could always run and have
Cool.
pieces ready to send them to the site so they could assemble with HoloLens as well.
Yeah.
And then we could communicate, like if something was wrong, we do the number 215, for example, and then so
Yeah, it
on.
seems like a lot of logistical nightmares can happen.
Yeah. But the funny thing is that it can be disassembled, but
Mhm.
it can be disassembled and assembled again, but no way to do that. Like, it's gonna be a
Yeah.
nightmare.
Awesome.
And we
Awesome.
said maybe like it resists a lot, like 3 years or 4. It's
Mhm.
still
Mhm.
there, but they move it somewhere.
They moved it to another location.
Yeah, they move it, but I'm not sure where. So
Cool.
if you still wanna see it, it's somewhere.
Yeah, you need to Google it first. See where it is.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's see the next one.
Yeah, and just to see like this fabrication, this connection between computational and fabrication, we
Mhm.
can do like many things. This is another example, like wooden waves.
Mhm.
This is not Biennale of Tallinn, but it's wooden waves. It's an
Mhm.
error.
Mhm.
It's Mamumani architects. So basically, what they used here it's plywood, and they use Grasshopper for to have this pattern, and then they use the laser machine for to laser cut this plywood, and then
Mhm.
create these waves that can be connected together and create these um, interior like things. Like it can be anything, like as a
Yeah.
yeah.
So this was uh, laser cut and then assembled in 3D, right?
This was entirely laser cut. There is no 3D. It's
Mhm.
laser cut in plywood, and
Mhm.
then where you have this pattern where it stressed the material. So we tested the material, so where we can curve and how much,
Yeah.
and then we create this shape.
So this seems like you need to go back and forth, do the test, and see
Yeah,
how it can be formed, and then maybe retest, like to see if you got the right shape, right?
exactly. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot of testing, but also like was quicker with Grasshopper because we could um, do again the pattern, but very quickly, like change it and then test it like quicker instead of like doing it manually.
Yeah, this is very similar to the project that we did in our previous workshop 2 years ago.
Ah,
Yeah, yeah,
It's very similar.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of mathematics with sine waves and adding multiple variables to it to get the
That
perfect
kind of
shape.
shape.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm also like interested to know, like for example, like when you started this, did you know more or less did you have any kind of parameters like how much the wood can be bent once you laser cut it, or you had to really test every single time and see, okay, now I have this angle but it's not good enough, let's repeat the pattern, let's do it again.
yeah, yeah. Basically, it's like the laser machine that we use called laser cut maximum 10 millimeter plywood or wood or MDF. So we tested also, this is the 3 mil, because with the 3 mil you can curve easily. But if
Hmm.
it's more like a 10 millimeter or more, it was more difficult to have this curvature and
Sure.
also it depends of what kind of wood. Like
Mhm.
MDF is not that um,
It's
uh,
flexible,
good.
probably. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. So in this case, we use the plywood, and but also, of course, now we can also try to find other materials. But we need to test for three things here: the material, and also the where the pattern can be stretched. So we add more pattern in those points.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's going in between geometry and fabrication. Geometry and fabrication also like looking at the limit of the machine that we have.
So
Because
yeah, it's always these three things, like more or less, like because you have
yeah,
the machine, you have the print bed, the size of the module that you can do, and then the shape itself, the size of the plate that you're gonna print, and then when you bend it, how far it's gonna go into your pattern that you initially designed. So that's why I'm curious to hear, like, going back and forth always.
yeah.
And um, I'm also curious about, like, you mentioned in the previous project, like you were kind of evaluating the process and you were sticking with the outcome no matter what, and you kind of trusted the shape. Was it the same in the second project? You kind of like also trusted the process of building it, or you had to modify it more than the first one?
So that's a good question. So I think both. It's trusting the process, because this is how you can do something digitally, but then you can translate it in with digital fabrication. And more we have advanced digital fabrication um, tools, we can be even more accurate, of course.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
But
mm-hmm.
then I like also the mistakes that can be done, like
Sure.
in the process, because it's still like real.
Yeah.
It's not. It's something real, and if the material requires to change pattern or to change something, then we need to accept it because we are using that material, and we need uh, to not only trust the geometry but trust also the material, and try to connect them together and
Did
see.
you have any constraints in terms of, like, how many mistakes you can make in terms of how many wood material you can use? Because I'm sure you don't have unlimited wood material to waste. Like, I'm sure you
Yeah,
had to calculate also that, like, okay, this mistake is okay, or let's move on.
yeah. I, mm, I mean, we used to test a lot. I'm not sure how many, like exactly, but it was like testing, because you can also test one piece or two piece. You don't test all the sheets of the wood. So
Mm-hmm.
you just test two pieces, and then if that works, it's the same model but with different angles.
Ah, okay, got it. Then you'll learn
So
from the test, essentially.
exactly, but you test two models, for example, or three. Like in this one, we
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
tested these. Basically, this can be a model, and if that works, then we can use that pattern. I mean that model for all
Yeah.
the
Makes
structure.
sense, because you know the criteria of the material in that case, and then based on that you move on.
Exactly, yeah. Otherwise, it will be more material wasting.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
And yeah, another one, same at Mamumani, are these are 3D printed. Uh, on the left and on the right, we have the conifera for Salone del Mobile in Milan. This was entirely like 3D printed, and all the J code was generated in with Grasshopper. This because we could print like 700 pieces
Mm-hmm.
in 4 months. So
Mm-hmm.
we accelerated the time and we reduced the material, the use of material. And yeah, this
What is
was
the material
yeah.
here?
Sorry,
What is the material in
it's
this?
we use the pellet material. It was a bioplastic.
Mm-hmm.
a combination, a mix of natural materials. That's why we have like different color ranging from the wood and the transparent and the white one, because they have a small amount of wood and small amount of the one is clear. So yeah, that's the idea. But
Do you
we,
know what? Do you know
yeah,
what was the machine that you used for printing those elements?
Oh yeah.
yeah, there was the wasp three the delta wasp, the
Mm-hmm.
big printer. I think
Mm-hmm.
I have a, a photo. Is this one? If you see on the this
Oh, I
first
see. Yeah,
image,
that's the plate below.
yeah,
It's
that
a circular
basically
plate.
the plate was laser cutted because that printer,
Oh,
it
really?
can print X, Y, and Z,
Mm-hmm.
but we needed to have some prints with inclination.
Mm-hmm.
So we grasshopper it, of course, before,
Mm-hmm.
and we laser cut the base. So we glue it, and then we 3D print on the top of the of that base.
I see.
And we had to change a little bit the material flow and also settings, because I mean, if the nozzle it only can print like X, Y, and Z, if it's with angle, then you need
Yeah,
to
it's gonna
reduce.
hit. It's gonna hit the material. Yeah.
Yeah. But this was all like the same machine,
Mm-hmm.
also for the COS project. So
Mm-hmm.
reducing the time and also use biomaterial. And this was a test that I made with different printers. So this one was printed with the 3MT.
Mm-hmm.
It has 3 millimeter is the nozzle,
Mm-hmm.
and this one was the WASP 5070. So the nozzle is more thin, so it's more clean.
Yeah.
And this was a mistake, but I still like it to keep.
Yeah, you
So
can
it's,
see through.
I mean, we learn from mistakes.
There was a
So
problem probably with the extrusion in that one. Like
yeah,
it wasn't enough extrusion. And
yeah.
did you do all of the G code in like directly through Grasshopper, or you had the slicer software as well?
No, we used Grasshopper because
Completely.
we wanted um, to do it in less time
Mm-hmm.
and also less material. So we
Mm-hmm.
used the plugin made by Mamumani.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a Silkworm
Yeah, I know.
plugin, and then we used that one, but directly. And we use the same plugin for the COS for this pavilion as well. And
Cool.
this is a small test of the COS.
Mm-hmm. 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 And in these modules, like on one single print bed, can you just print one module, or can print more?
More, because this one, the 5070 has you can print at least 10,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because it has 50 is the diameter of
Mm-hmm.
the bed, but this one is the 3MT, so it's the big printer that can print 1 meter high.
Cool.
So you can print, I think, I never tested to print as much. I just printed 2, but you can print 25 if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, yeah.
Because basically it's 1 meter. So all this is the printer. It's not only this base,
Mm-hmm.
but we are inside the 3D printer. So I guess it's you can print a lot, because this is a small piece.
Small, yeah, that's a small sample. Sure, sure.
Yeah. Also, these ones are printed at the same time, for example. But
Mm-hmm.
this was a German 3D printer, was not the WASP,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
the material was PLA, like clear PLA.
We have one question about the UV. Like, do you know if bioplastic materials are UV resistant?
E- mm, Good question. So I know that for this one, for the COS, was water resistant,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not sure about the
UV. Mm-hmm.
UV. It should be, but I'm not sure. I don't want to
Yeah,
say
yeah.
something. But good question.
Cool, cool, awesome.
And these are other tests that we did
Mm-hmm.
for still like with Grasshopper, and trying to track the where we want the nozzle like to 3D print. Of
So
course, these are failed, but I like the mistakes one.
yeah, sure.
Yeah, we
Like
can see the process here.
see the
Yeah.
complete process from the idea to the final thing. And how did you deal um, with? You mentioned that you were printing something that was inclined. Um, was that process of printing something like that? um, like I know that you can in Grasshopper give it like paths, and you can give the tool head the path. Did you have to change or modify the nozzle itself to make it a little bit higher so it doesn't touch the materials, or use the same nozzle for?
We use the same nozzle,
Mhm,
and we play around with the machine, with the 3D printer settings
mhm, mhm,
for the
mhm.
material. But yeah, I mean, we had to stick on these printers and make these work in these printers,
Yeah,
for
yeah,
example, and try to. It was more difficult because, of course, it's a X, Y, and Z, and you could have done these like now with ARM Robot or something.
sure, sure. Now you have more efficient now methods.
Yeah, but then we use here this method, and we use that machine, and with that machine we played a lot with the material settings
Mm-hmm,
from the machine.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So
Cool.
yeah, was
Awesome.
and this
And
was yes,
yeah, what was this project about?
this is a old street. It is in Old Street. Is a reception desk.
Uh-huh.
It's still
Cool.
there in London. It's called Dream Machine. It's
Mm-hmm.
for reception, yeah, for a client.
Cool. It's just like a retro slash modern look.
Yeah, he was obsessed with these retro things, so he wanted to have this thing, and yeah,
Cool, cool. And this material is, hard enough to hold the table.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, it's PLA, but
PLA.
pellet,
Mm-hmm.
and it's very strong. So it doesn't look like, but it's strong.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, these are us on the process,
Did you
and
glue it together or use something else to connect it?
so we screw them,
Mm-hmm.
and of course we had to see where was in Rhino, so
Mm-hmm.
where to screw it and where the connection is, because it has this angle, so it has
Mm-hmm.
to follow. We had to name each model.
Yeah, yeah, in part. Yeah.
Yeah, that's. And here we are, like computational in the office. If you have any questions, just let me know about these. If there are questions about.
Guys, feel free to post the questions
Yeah, if
in
you
the
have
chat.
any questions for Aisha, put them in the chat.
I hope it's clear. Was clear. It's a little bit
Yeah,
fast.
yeah. It's amazing to see the process, and especially when you see something in real life and you see it built, and then like you don't know how much work went into it, and the
Yeah,
whole production, a whole like testing phase, and especially when you're dealing with software, and then you kind of know how to deal with software, how which mistakes can arise and how to correct them. And then you mentioned materials. What are the materials? Then what are the constraints of the machine itself? And now like we actually have here Bamba Lab the printer, and we got this like 2 months ago. We started playing with it. It's amazing, like when you see something in the 3D viewport and then you see it getting built, like it's really different
yeah.
feeling. um,
Yeah, we have a question. What part do you enjoy more? More the design or the actual building of it?
So that's a good question. I actually discover like doing this that I like both. So I really feel like when I'm designing something, I really feel that I want to fabricate it as well.
mhm.
So because this makes me think about the material, and I like both, and I think these are connected together. So no matter what, so even if you enjoy more the building or only the design thing, you will still be curious, like to know how to do this, in how to design it or how to fabricate it. So, and I think this is beautiful because then it's like it's something normal that people think like, how can I do this? And this is, I mean,
Yeah, the whole thing. Yeah, I agree with you. I also like until I had the 3D printer, I didn't know, the feeling of when it's getting printed and you can actually see the
exactly,
model working, and it's like, okay, it's becoming alive. It's actually something that I created, and you enjoy more the whole process, from not only designing it, but also seeing it come to life, and then post production at the end, how to clean it up, how to the dust it and sand it and everything. So
exactly.
and
And also
yeah,
like
when you can show.
mistakes,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
then you can think about, okay, this material, you can do this and that with this material, and then maybe you change material or you change the pattern or you change something else. And this is amazing because I mean, you can create many things. I had some clients like, when I was working at Mamumani. So, for example, they used to use the laser machine for to laser cut acrylic for jewelry design, and it's amazing. Like with simple things,
Mm-hmm.
she could like laser cut like hundred of those pieces and glue them together and sell them. So it's a way how she used digital fabrication without even using Grasshopper or just Rhino.
Yeah, yeah,
Like, she combined these two things, but she's like, it was great,
yeah.
like something new.
Yeah, we have more questions in the chat.
Yeah.
So next one is, how was Big involved in the projects you presented, a collaborator with Mamumani?
So
Yeah, I think this is like this. These were the projects that you did prior,
yeah,
before you got to Big. So these are the
Uh-huh.
projects that were done
Okay.
in the past before
that's
Aisha.
a
Yeah,
good question. Thanks for this question. Who made it?
yeah.
So basically, it was during the pandemic, and I was actually applying for work, and this is when I saw how to Rhino masterclass, and I thought was interested because they don't, for the same idea, like it's not teaching just like how to open Grasshopper and how to use Grasshopper and these things, but you learn how to use Grasshopper in architecture, in landscape, and how to use it for something. I think this makes the difference.
Yeah.
Like, you can find many tutorials, like, but it's the how that changed, like, the thing. And I had this, how was Big involved. So basically, I did a lot of research of. I can't speak about this project because it's not public yet. But basically, we won a project
Mm-hmm.
based on this research I have done, and that's what Big saw in my portfolio. And at that moment, they were working on something like that, like
Mm-hmm.
the idea. But that idea, I had to keep that research and use it for a very large scale project and make it work in architecture. So we won,
Mm-hmm.
and we are going to start, I think, in the next month or something again. But yeah, this is when, and it was amazing because after like so much work, I couldn't realize I used processing for this research, and I will never thought about like using this in this large scale in this company. But actually, they trusted this process, and trusting this process made them also win because we win when we trust new ideas.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, yeah.
Awesome, awesome, cool.
But
Um,
I hope to share like soon, but I can't share the project
sure,
for
sure, no
now.
worries. We'll we'll we'll,
Next
we'll
time,
we'll
yeah.
talk
Yeah.
we'll talk once again. um, so we have one more question about Big. What department are you in right now in Big? Can you tell about that?
Yeah, basically I'm computational design in the design technology team, but I'm helping like landscape teams, architects, urban designers for the workflow. Basically, if they need a facade, so they come to me and they sketch it so I can make the facade for them. Or if they need plots for urban design, I do them for them. Or if they want to place trees um, from Enscape into some Axos, so I just make it easier for them. But yeah, it's like trying to help them with the workflow to make faster the workflow so they can work on something else.
Yeah,
So
they can be more efficient.
Yeah.
it's about efficiency at the end, like to be more efficient. So you're kind of holding holding hands with everybody.
Yeah.
Okay, we have one more.
Yeah.
Does the printing machine communicate well with Rhino and Grasshopper program? I'm,
Okay.
I'm assuming this is connected with like the G code that you guys created.
Yeah, it is. It is, but needs to be tested. Like until you don't test it, then, for example, you need to see the quantity of
Result.
material. You need to see, and then change it again. But
Yeah.
I
Yeah, this
think
is something that I can also speak a little bit about because the process of actually creating the G code in Grasshopper is like you have a lot of these steps and you need to follow each step. For example, the extrusion itself, like there's a G code for the extrusion, like how much material should be extruded in what time in per 1 second, like how much material should go out. Then you
yeah,
also have the times, like what is the path, what is the tool path, like how do you create a tool path where the extruder should go. And then you have also the points in print when the extrusion should stop and it should move the head to another point, and then it starts there from this other point.
yeah,
So there's a lot of these small actions that you need to put in the G code so the machine knows when to spit out the material and when to stop the material, when to do the retraction, when to do the extrusion. So there's a lot of these
parameters
yeah,
that you
yeah,
need.
yeah.
and that's why we have these big like regular slicer programs, which are really super easy to use. You just put you put all of this information and it spits the G code for you, and
Yeah.
that's super kind of easy to do. But whenever you are doing these kind of experimental models and experimental prints, you need much finer control, and that's when you create a whole G code from scratch in Grasshopper. So those are
Yeah.
kind of the differences.
Yeah, exactly. Like, for example, for the conifera installation, we did it like 700, we 3D printed 700 pieces in 4 months. But if we used like the normal program, like slicer, like it could have taken like 1 year or
Yeah,
even more. So
exactly. So it's all about optimizing and
yeah,
saving time and doing the efficient output at the end. Um,
exactly.
we have more questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's wait. Yeah, so we have this question, but we already answered this. Did the printer receive all your designs well? Where there are areas where you embraced mistakes or unplanned results for the final model?
Mm-hmm.
So it's this one, but we kind of answered this in the previous project. But I'm not sure like if you would keep the mistake if you have the 3D printed part, because you can always kind of redo it, right?
Yeah, I mean, what's mistake? I mean, it's not for the final model, but
Yeah,
you can still keep them as a process.
just like you
Or yeah,
just kept those on the screen.
exactly. Or maybe like reuse the material again
Yeah,
and again to 3D print something else. So we don't waste material, but we reuse it.
you reuse the material, and then you have the process to kind of
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah. I mean, I think now they have it. When I was working, no, we didn't have it, but now I think they have the machine that
Mm-hmm.
recycle the 3D prints, the
Mm-hmm.
faulty ones, and then they print it again,
Cool.
so
Awesome.
they don't waste material.
Yeah, that's great.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. Another question we have here. Where did you learn all the programs? How was your journey from doing normal projects in university to designing and building these more complex projects?
I think I didn't realize it. Like I finished my university as a product designer, and when I moved here, it was so everything happened. Like I was looking for an internship, and then I think it's a step by step. Like I started with Sumin, and I started like to see these 3D printers. I started to see these geometries, and I was fascinated.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's not how where did you learn it, because I think no one will teach you like everything. It's what you want, like how curious you are to learn something, and how much time would you spend to learn that thing that you are interested. So this is what I have done. Like I spent a lot of time, but because I was really passionate about that, and I was super curious, and this is the reason that, I mean, I know these programs, but it's not I know everything, because you never know everything. So it's something like to,
I think
uh,
we can
yeah,
relate to what you said because I like what you are talking about right now is what we also did, back in the days, because it's all about being passionate about what you're doing and actually liking what you're doing and enjoying it a little bit. And as you said, the more curious you are, the more it's going to push you to learn more and more and more, because it simply opens up a lot of doors, at the
yeah,
same time. So maybe lucky you can say about this, like when we were in Poland, it was same story. We were exploring
Yeah.
every single day. Okay, how can we create this or that, or like,
How we can
yeah,
create this lamp, how we can create this bench, how we can, we try to implement Grasshopper in every single step of our design. But that's not the, I mean,
yeah, that
couple of lives before, I mean, in the live session before we, you explained that you shouldn't use Grasshopper
for everything,
for
but
everything.
but
But yeah,
at that point,
that
yeah,
was our mistake.
at
Yeah.
that point we were just like wanting to know everything, like how we do everything in Grasshopper. But then now we know, okay, some things shouldn't be done in Grasshopper, some things should be done in Rhino
Yeah.
or different tools. So it comes with experience and with time.
yeah, yeah. I totally agree with that. It's yeah, sometimes I get some tasks from teams that are like it's not a normal question for Grasshopper, but then you do it, because then you also learn like
Yeah,
how would I do this thing, and then you do it and you learn. So I think it's the beauty of this, that you, there are always like new tasks that we don't know,
yeah.
and we try to find a solution.
We have a question from Stefan. Do you still use processing at Big, or is it just Grasshopper now?
We try to use, I mean, I think I'm the only one using processing
Mm-hmm,
that
mm-hmm,
I use for that project, but they are really open, like um, for creativity. So more you use it and more you show that actually you can use it for projects,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
then there is no reason why to don't use it.
Yeah.
But for now, we don't use processing except in this project in
Well, it
London.
kind of, I would also say it kind of depends on the project, right? Like
Exactly.
if
Yeah,
there is sense for using something like this, yeah, that's.
exactly.
Um, do you participate in concept design phases, or you only help the team with the workflow?
Okay. So at the beginning, I was also participating in the concept
Mm-hmm,
design. So now it's more about the workflow, like
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
more. So sometimes I go back to the concept phase, but was more at the beginning. Now it's like more workflow and things.
Yeah, got it. We have a question from Alessandro that I can also answer. Why you didn't export the model to a STL file and then import into a 3D printer program? So STL file is actually like, if you can export the G code directly, you don't need the STL file. So if you can, like the 3D printers can read a G code file. And if you can export the G code file directly from Grasshopper, you don't need STL. Usually you use STLs when we're talking about these kind of traditional 3D printers, and when you have a slicer software. So you're putting the STL file inside of the slicer software, and then that slicer software spits out the G code that goes into this machine, and then it prints out. So why they don't use STL files? Because they export the G codes directly to the machine. Did I answer that correctly?
I agree.
Yeah, that's the all right.
Should I also have some
Yeah,
slides
go
for
ahead.
the
Let's continue.
just for the office, like how we use computational in the office at Big for now. So I can share what I'm working on, but I can share like some of the projects where they use Grasshopper, and like these, for example, is the Joint Research Center, and this is a Google view, yeah, and these is Grasshopper but used in architecture. So you can see like can be many like uses. Like this is the pavilion, or the Steampunk Pavilion. Yeah.
We did a couple of tutorials on some of these projects, so we're familiar.
Yeah,
With
I know.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. So in terms of the process, like, do you guys have any kind of like process for like, if somebody wants to get inside Big, is there any kind of recommendations that you can give to people in terms of what is needed and what is required, and in terms of the software as well, like what are the requirements for the software and so on?
Yeah. So basically, what we use, I can speak about London office. Like we use Rhino, Grasshopper. Like Grasshopper, we have many designers using it. Like every team use Grasshopper, and what else? Like these are the main two software. And also, I think the thing is that being a little bit creative, not only academic, this will help, because what I can see now that new people, like new generation, is very creative. Like they really like to explore, and they have these new tools. And I think being creative will help them as well, because also the company looks like it's like,
Is there anything that you can share about the implementation of AI, and if there's any kind of like initiative that you see in the office that they're pushing this maybe for the design phase to kind of get the ideas going?
we currently use AI for stable diffusion for some renders. So this helps like to generate some renders in-house, like quickly. And nothing that much about augmented reality yet, or AR, but we use mostly for landscape scripts and urban facade, because we need also to be, in one hand, have this workflow, this creative part, but in the other hand, we have clients, so they have to see the building, they have to see the real thing, and it's difficult sometimes to combine together the both. So we need to have a balance between both.
Yeah, cool, awesome. We have from Walter, he's saying, Aishe Kokoshi, thank you for presenting two of my favorite parametric products, Mama Mani's Dream Machine and Sumin Ham's Steampunk Pavilion. Beautiful glimpse into the future of design. Do you have current favorites that you have seen?
Do you?
Yeah, I'm not
Uh,
sure. I'm not sure. Like, but you, he's probably thinking like, what are your favorite products of this kind?
what is my favorite one?
Yeah,
Okay, I think it's. I mean, every project it has a story.
yeah,
Like I'm really attached to the steampunk as well because the steampunk was. I was really. I mean, even at Mamomane I was there, but the steampunk was the first project that
got you
I
inside of
did
those.
on site, and it was like. I mean, it was a great experience, and yeah, I think that one I'm more close. It's not favorite because favorite like I have many, but that is the one I feel closer.
Cool, cool, awesome, awesome. All right. Um, do we have any last questions from Aisha? We have one. What is the percentage of errors from the design phase to the execution in any of the best digital fabrications you have done so far? Percentage of errors.
It depends. Like if you know the material, if you already know every like less or more, not everything, it's like you have less errors.
Yeah.
But if you are exploring like new geometry, new designs with that material, then you need to test it. It depends of the design,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I will say, yeah.
Yeah, it's always connected with the project itself and with the material, I would say as well. Like, and then also the tools you're using.
Yeah.
If you're using more modern tools, you're gonna have less mistakes. If you use
Yeah.
more optimized code, you're gonna have less
Yeah.
mistakes. So it all comes with inputs and outputs at the end.
Yeah.
We have one question. Can you name AI plugins used to generate the landscape art for a more streamlined workflow? This is probably like if you know some of the AI, like have you used any of them?
Mm, not really, because we use AA more ChatGPT or for renders.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And for landscape, we currently like do scripts
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
or just script like what the team ask, like you
Yeah,
do that and based on that. But there is no AI plugin that I'm using now
mm,
for landscape.
for the work. Yeah,
Yeah.
cool.
And I have a question for you. Can you tell us how our course helped you to improve your skills with Rhine and Grasshopper?
Yes, sure. So my background is product design, and because I was applying to the architectural firm, so I was really interested how to use Grasshopper, but in architecture. So and this helped me not only in the Grasshopper part, but also in the diagrams, something that maybe for some architectural students can be easy, but for someone that comes from different background, it's really important to see like how to use them with. It's a 360-degree thing, like from diagrams to Grasshopper and so on. So that's why I choose like this course, and I think this helped a lot because I felt like more confident in terms of architecture with Grasshopper and with Illustrator because I think I took all the course.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cool.
So thanks, guys.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Aisha. Thank you for the wonderful presentation, and it was a great experience to see your whole process from the initial these installations that you've done, and then how everything led up to the point where you got hired by Big because of your explorations and also your knowledge. So we're really proud of you. That's
Uh,
why that's
I'm
why
grateful. Like I think I had my best teachers, Lazar and you. So thanks for.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. And then we're gonna leave this. We're going to wrap it up now. And once again, thank you for joining us.
Thank
And
you.
hopefully we're going to see you soon, speak in the future whenever you can share some of that project you mentioned.
Sure.
Cool. So thank you, Aisha. We're gonna wrap it up now.
Yeah.
And
Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing
Thank
this
you.
presentation with us.
Thanks for the invitation, and I will be more than happy to share in the future, like projects.
Awesome.
Yeah, we are looking forward to see the project that you mentioned.
Maybe we'll do a
Okay.
tutorial when it comes
Yes.
out.
Okay.
Oh,
Thank you, guys.
all right. Bye
Thank
bye.
you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
And guys, we wanted also to before we finish off with the live, we just wanted to remind you that you can still join our courses: Rhino for Architects, Grasshopper Complete, and Rhino Inside Revit. The door is open until tomorrow at 11:59 p.m. So you have around, let's say,
Maybe you can open
yeah,
the website.
I can show you.
We
I can
can
show
see
you the clock. So we have 1 day, 3 hours left, 42 hours, 42 minutes to until we close up the registration for this year. And we wanted to, of course, thank you all of you guys for being here with us, for having for participating in the workshop, for sharing your comments, for giving us feedback. And we're definitely going to do these kind of workshops probably next year at around the same time. We're going to see. We're still not sure yet.
or
And
maybe in 2 years.
maybe in 2 years. Yeah, the last one was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And what else? Yeah, I wanted also to tell you about the certificates for attendance. We're gonna deal with us next week. We're gonna send all the people who were participating in the workshops. They're gonna get the certificate, and yeah, that would be it.
Yeah. Thank you guys for watching us, for being active, as Dusan said in the comments. And yeah,
we'll see you some other time.
Yeah.
Maybe some of you will see in the course. Who knows? We'll work together.
We're looking forward.